So I kind of want to backtrack here a little bit. In the first chapter of your book, you talk about the COVID, towards the end, the COVID bubble waiver that reporters had to sign, kind of essentially putting like nail in the coffin and for
Yeah.
reporters to informally interact with members of the organization. Do you think this is handicapping media members from really being able to do their job and create, like, you have so many of these relationships, right? Is that the nail in the coffin in that, you think?
It was the weirdest thing to read about that waiver, that because in the bubble, they were all in Vegas, right? Is that where they were? But Gary Washburn of the Globe went. He may have told me about it, but you had to sign a waiver that if you bumped into somebody at the hotel or in the airport, anywhere, you couldn't approach. You couldn't interact with them. The rule was just in the media time, after practice, after games, that was the only time you could interact with them. Well, man, we get all of our work done independent of that. You don't get anything out of those group sessions of the media. Everybody's, if I got something, a good question asked, I'm not going to do it in front of everybody else because everybody gets the same answer. So, but back then you waited out and you'd get a guy one-on-one and get something of your own. And that's where all the work was done. Hotel lobbies, wait for the bus, waiting for bags, that kind of thing. So the notion that now it's a point where the way you get the greatest stuff is totally off the table. It's like, why bother? You could just cover it off TV, which some people do.
Right. Have you noticed, do you think, a difference, or a seismic difference at least, in terms of, quality of coverage or writing?
Oh, sure. All the time. Like whatever was going on with Porzingis earlier this year, remember? He finally sent out a thing himself, said he had a virus or something like that. But, we didn't know that. I mean, guys talk, but you can't get it to anybody by yourself. And you just don't have anybody whispering because you're not interacting one-on-one with the players at their lockers or on the bus or at practice. So yeah, that would have got out much sooner.
Right.
Now, from that, do you see a difference within superstars today, or even just players today, when it comes to their relationship with the media? Were stars back in the day? I really just throw out the term stars because we're talking about, with stars, Bird, McHale, Parrish back then, but just players in general. Was it more friendly to the media from a player's perspective back in the 1980s compared to today?
Well, we certainly, again, they paid attention to what we were doing because it was the only form. There was no social media. And so they cared what was in the paper. I mean, to the point the other team noticed what we were doing. Julius Erving got mad at me over something, and he knew my name. And I'm like, this is great. Julius Erving knows my name. I thought that was pretty good. But, Pat Riley, that was in that last episode. I kept putting the hotel the Lakers were in the '84 finals, which was really a dick move, as I admit in there, because I mean the Celtic fans would go over and pull fire alarms and order room service and just torture these guys, and that was because I said, oh, they're at the Copley Marriott, now they're at the Copley Westin, now they're at the Park House. They went in 3 different hotels in one 7-game series because I kept putting it in there, and Riley was pissed, and he was right, But so yeah, everybody knew what we were writing because it mattered, and it was the only way people found out stuff. The Globe had 800,000 Sunday newspapers when everybody read them. Now they got like 100,000, and nobody reads it. So I understand that. There's just so many more ways. So the superstars today, like I'm sure Tatum and Brown don't even know who I am, which is fine. But Bird and Parrish and McHale, they knew, and they knew what. Larry got in that fight with Julius, and he was mad about the way I characterized the fight, because a couple of guys were holding him so he couldn't swing back. And he said, people pay attention to what you do. I care about what's in there, and don't do that, fix that kind of thing. So it mattered. And this is just evolution. It's nobody's fault. It's just the way it evolved. And I understand it. And I understand how really kind of irrelevant we are to them now. And they never liked us, but it mattered back then.
Now that brings up a follow-up question for that. When we look at the different eras out there of basketball and really just the different levels of coverage and access that media members do have, but just within the Boston sports market, we all know scrutiny is at abundance in the Boston area. So for you personally, when it came to players, coaches, executives, even the public scrutinizing a piece of yours, how did you deal with that scrutiny?
That was an easy one for me. I had really good role models, and with Bob Ryan, Will McDonough, we all go about it differently, but I knew what the job was, and I knew I wasn't going to be friends with anybody, and that was easy. They don't want to be our friend. I understand that. We're sort of an annoyance, and in the way. So I never tried to cozy up, or I understood it. If when Larry got in this barroom fight, I was just hitting a good stride with him, pretty good year or so, where he was really starting to, I think, trust me and like me a little bit. And that barroom fight happened, and I knew I'm going to get the big freeze after this. And I told my boss, I got the whole thing. If you want to have somebody else write it, Larry probably still talk to me. So no, you gathered it, you do it. So I did. And then I saw him first day of camp, and he said, "That's it for you, Scoop. Not talking to you all year." And he didn't until the All-Star break, when I was leaving to go to baseball. That's when he won the first 3-point contest. He said, "Take that, Dan Shaughnessy. Put that in your paper." But it was so yeah. He honored that, and I understood it. I mean, the guys, some guys, that team had a lot of talkers. Maxwell, ML, DJ, McHale, Danny. So they could always get stuff, and you could stand in the back of the room, and if Larry's talking, I could hear it and get what I needed. But it wasn't the greatest thing to have the best player in the NBA, freeze you out for the year. So I don't know if it was worth it, but it's a true story. It happened, whatever.